What's up, guys? You can't go anywhere. I mean, anywhere without hearing about cryptocurrency now. Like, it's been around for a while. One of my regrets was not getting in it sooner, and I had good friends that were on me, and I said, too busy or whatever. Anyways, that's neither here nor there, but clearly it bugs me every time. But you can't go anywhere without hearing someone talk about their Bitcoin or Ethereum or Litecoin or whatever it is, right? Doge, Dog, E-Coin, whatever the hell you want to call that one, okay, Elon. They're everywhere. But the problem is, this started as sort of in the same vein as, it's more sophisticated, but started in the same vein as like gaming. So you had people literally now, college kids, high school kids who got into the crypto market early when everyone didn't believe it or didn't think to get into it. And they're laughing now, except for when the feds come, right? And so what happens is a lot of the people with crypto now see the value going up. And, I say it all the time, but it's true. A lot of my clients end up like these stoners on the couch, right? We all know them. They go to college, they wake up around 12, smoke a little weed, whatever they're gonna do, right? Their higher education, and some of them call it medicine if you're in California, I guess. But then they get on their phone and they're like, whatever, what's the price? I'm gonna sell a little crypto today, okay? And they do it, and cool. You sold some crypto, but they made a profit, and then they get treated as an MTB or a money transmitting business, right? And they're exchanging currencies for profit, and that has a bunch of risk with it, a bunch of risk. And that's why lately we've been getting more and more clients and more calls. And I'll talk to you about it later in the video about some of the other schemes going on where I have clients getting their crypto seized and they don't know why, or getting their bank account seized and they don't know why. But let's get back to the stoner in college, right? We can all relate to that. We all know those people. Maybe they're your kids, maybe they're your friends, maybe it's you. I don't know. But what happens is that person, right, let's call them the stoner on the couch, that's usually what they are. They're in between video games, or maybe they're out because they lost, and they sell a little crypto, right, for profit. Then they're going to be treated the same way in the eyes of the law. They get end up treated the same way as these multinational banks, right? Think HSBC, Deutsche Bank, Wells Fargo. In their compliance departments, hundreds of lawyers internationally working on regulations, working on keeping them in compliance, okay? Those banking regs, the AML, right? Anti-money laundering regulations. Thinking about FinCEN, I posted videos about them a while ago, right? You can go back and watch them on Instagram or YouTube. They're not hard to find. But those same banking regs that you have hundreds of lawyers in these international companies, they then apply that draconian structure to the stoner on the couch. And that's where we see people get into trouble, where the stoner on the couch then goes, hey, I don't want to do it on exchange anymore. I want to do it for cash. So you go to one of these local websites, and you know what? The agents are there, and they're posing as buyers of cash, buyers for Bitcoin or for Ethereum or whatever the cryptocurrency is, whatever's hot. And these agents will then set up buys from the stoner on the couch. And what happens? Stoner on the couch says, okay, goes to meet these people he does not know are agents, usually a younger person, usually male. And they're thinking, hey, this is cool, but also I'm really nervous. Partly maybe a little paranoid because they're stoned, but also a little paranoid because maybe they're going to get 20 or more, $40,000, $50,000 in cash. They've never held that much cash at one time in their hand. They've all dealt with crypto. They're worried about being robbed. They're worried if it's a ripoff, whatever it is. So at that meeting, I have cases where they go to meet these agents. And the agents, keep in mind, they're sophisticated. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. They're there to solve crime, get the bad guy. So they're going to loop them in, and they're going to say, hey, I'm going to sell you this much in cryptocurrency, and I'll give you this much cash. And it's always for a profit to loop them into that MTB sort of hook and to get them into the structure of the financial institutions. While building that rapport, the agents are going to make comments. They're sort of seemingly innocuous to the untrained eye or the untrained ear, where the agent knows exactly what they're doing, and they're setting them up for more exposure later. And as a lawyer, when you look back on this discovery, you're just like, oh man, these are some red flags. But putting yourself in the mind of the stoner on the couch who's nervous and thinking about a million other things and doesn't have a background in the law, they're easily deceived. Some things are like, oh, the agent will say, hey, thank you very much. This is great. I really need a way to move my cash because, the people I represent, perhaps we're in San Diego, they're in Mexico, they can't come here, and they can't really, you can't put money in the banks. And they'll make statements like that. And they'll say, oh yeah, you understand, they can't come here, they can't put money in the banks. This is really a great way for us be able to move cash and sort of get it off the market, right? And get in a space that's more secure and easily transferable. And they'll start making these comments. At the time, the stoner on the couch, who becomes my client in the future, has no idea. And then when you point it out or you question your client later about, hey, what happened? What was said? What did you know? Trying to figure out what happened at that meeting if you don't have a recording of it, which now they usually do. The client will start making these statements that jump off the page to train lawyers, right? And then, sure enough, when you get into that case, they're going to have an upward adjustment or increased exposure in their criminal time because of money laundering in connection with an illegal activity, right? And it's going to be based on the information that trained agent is injecting into the conversation, implanting, trying to impute knowledge on the stoner on the couch who doesn't know, right? These are the types of things that are happening. And I mean, that's way on one extreme. I have very savvy clients now that realize there's a risk operating in that space, realize there's sort of a gray area. And what they want to do is they want to capitalize on that gray area, right? That's what business people do. And they want to push the limits, but they really are not willing to risk a federal prosecution or going to jail and losing money and perhaps liberty and the stain of a felony for the rest of your life in federal court, absent presidential pardon, right? So these clients really we're seeing a lot of, which I love, I enjoy working with. It's fun. They're more my proactive clients that come to me for an honest consultation, evaluation, risk assessment, because they're in the space. There may be a broker and they want to make sure it's not black and white. So they want a lawyer to advise them on compliance issues moving forward to help avoid a criminal prosecution down the line, right? That's really the sweet spot, is to get ahead of it. I've talked to it again in other videos about business formation and starting your business and going forward, and the value of building into that budget consultation with the lawyer, not being cheap and saying, oh, we don't need it, they're just expensive. It's way more expensive after the fact to come in and fix it. And most of the times in this space, you can't avoid it if you're truly trying to do the right thing, right? So that's a sweetheart issue, is the clients who call me. And lately what I've been getting, guys, a lot of 3 to 5 calls a week, honest 3 to 5 calls of clients who operate in the cryptocurrency space. They're perhaps a holder of the cryptocurrency, and they operate and are trying to operate legitimately on an exchange. And what happens is, we're seeing now, they'll call me not because of the exchange, not because of their crypto. Out of nowhere, their bank account where they hold their cash will be frozen. Asset forfeiture or frozen in connection with some sort of federal investigation or lawsuit. And this is a huge issue that we're seeing, a huge red flag, because there are bad actors out there. And a lot of these exchanges are sort of blind. And if you're not familiar with it, most of you probably are, that's why you're watching this video, but those who aren't, people who want to buy cryptocurrency can go on exchanges and they have whatever currency they have, whether it's dollar, euro, peso, or maybe a different form of crypto. And they're willing to spend X amount of that currency in exchange for a different currency, right? It says currency exchange. So I want to take $500 and I want to convert that into cryptocurrency, be it Ethereum or say Bitcoin. Then somebody in that exchange will be a holder of that currency and say, I'm willing to sell you X amount of Bitcoin for that $500. And once they have an agreement through the exchange, there's an escrow account. And when the money goes in and it's verified, then the funder of the cryptocurrency will deposit there and they're verified, and then they'll be released out of the exchange. So now the cryptos exchange hands because the cash money, say dollars, has been deposited in the escrow account. Doesn't seem like anything's going on, doesn't seem like anything's wrong, it's on an exchange, they have certain protocols. But of course, if that was the case, they wouldn't call me. So what happens is now there's a lot of fraudsters out there who are very smart, very sneaky, very creative, and to the unsuspecting, purchaser's detriment. And what happens is sometimes all those players I just mentioned, the funder, people getting the cash, they're all in cahoots, right? It's a collusive fraud scheme. Usually that's not the case. Usually what we're seeing is there's a fraudster who wants to defraud somebody, wants crypto because of the benefits of operating with a cryptocurrency as opposed to, standard, acquiring your identification or your credit card information or banking data That's old school. So the fraudster will, what we're seeing now, especially in San Diego, in the summer, they'll see an advertisement for almost a too good to be true deal about beachfront rental. Beachfront rental, lock it in now with this rate. If you're interested, email me. I'll send you the info. I'll give you the wire, the deposit instructions. You make your deposit to lock in your rate. You pay up front. End of story. Whatever the details are. But lately, the premise has been sort of beachfront or vacation rental. Unsuspecting tourista will go on there. I'm interested. They get the bank information. Cool. They send it in. They send their verification to the poster of the ad. Hey, look, I did it. I verified. This is what I sent for this week. Well, what they don't know, and it's hard for them to figure out, because again, I'm not representing people on that side of it. I get it after the fact. They don't know that that bank information that was provided in response to the inquiry on the ad was the funding information for that escrow account on the exchange. So then what happens? Exchange process goes through, poster of the ad, the fraudster gets crypto, gone with the wind. The cash from the exchange goes into the seller of the cryptocurrency, who usually ends up being my client, right? They're getting the cash into their bank account. Well, don't forget about tourista with the little zinc on their nose and the visor, looking completely out of place. They show up with their 17 kids and 3 bags for their beachfront rental here, at Pacific Beach, and everybody's confused because there's no vacation rental. Sometimes it's a legit address because they look at the videos now online. You can look at the property, you get an idea of how much to pack or not pack, whatever. But then they're stuck and they're screwed, and they realize right then, if not sooner, that they paid for a vacation rental that was never linked to a vacation rental. So then they call the authorities, the Secret Service, the FBI, some local task force who's working with either one of those agencies, and they drill it down to, okay, here's all the verification, this is the ad I responded to, and this is the account, and then there's inquiry into the exchange through a search warrant, or if you're law enforcement, sometimes they don't even need it, they just make a request, and then boom, the transaction's located, the money goes in, the money gets transferred into cryptocurrency, and they follow the US dollars into my client bank account, which was transferred because they released the crypto. So now my client has called me because they've lost their crypto, they sold it, and now the cash they obtained for it, or at least that same value of cash, is frozen in their bank account. This is a problem we have, and a lot of my clients, I can tell you actually all of my clients that I've had so far, were not in on the fraud. And they're thoroughly confused as to why now their liquid cash that they would usually reinvest for their business into crypto to buy more when the market's right is frozen. And they're an additional victim. But initially, guys, it's not that easy. It takes time. You have to prove up your AML process. You have to prove up what your procedures are and your KYC and your transaction history indefinitely, whether on just that exchange or elsewhere, to sort of prove your innocence up front and show that you're not only not a member or potential target of this conspiracy for the fraud operation, you're actually an additional victim, right? And that money they're taking from one victim to get to another is not the right way to go about it. And you have to know how to, one, build your case, represent your client, and what supporting documentation you need. And you have to have those relationships with law enforcement authority and reputation of trust that's obviously verified and corroborated with the data, to then get your client properly categorized as a victim, and then to show them there's another way to get those funds back, or whatever way there is. It's not by taking from one victim to repay another, because that's not allowed. That's not allowed. My seller of cryptocurrency is a true, actual victim of the fraud as well. So they're not going to use their money and their assets to repay other victims down the line. That sounds a lot like a Ponzi scheme in reverse, right? We know they don't like those, ask Madoff. So again, guys, this is a long form video, but I'm giving you a bunch of different tips. And to the sellers of cryptocurrency, again, the best thing I can tell you, I'm going to give you some quick advice right now. Not legal advice, suggestions on how to run your business. If you're in that space and you're a holder of cryptocurrency, you're operating on exchanges, and you think there's a gray area, you're not sure, or perhaps you're doing everything above board, but you caught a suspected buyer of something that doesn't seem right, and now you're worried about all the past transactions you've had with these people and the risk of your money being seized. Call a lawyer that knows what they're doing ahead of time, right? They can walk you through the compliance aspect of it to the best that they can with the current state of the law and how it's being applied, if that's what they really do, right? So you make sure you can sleep easy because you're doing things the right way. And then a big piece of that puzzle is you being honest with that lawyer. And then if things don't go your way and you get tied up in an investigation, you become the target, or worst case, you become indicted as a defendant, you have a defense, an absolute defense of advice of counsel. If you really did engage a lawyer for that purpose and you were honest and you were advised properly based on the material facts, you weren't withholding, you then would have a defense in that criminal action for advice of counsel, which would negate the intent requirement. That's a huge benefit that goes overlooked in a lot of aspects of law because lawyers don't realize it. They don't really know, they don't think about it that way, but having been experienced through the criminal process and going through the ringer and dealing with different types of businesses and the fallouts of investigations, that's a real benefit to establishing that attorney-client relationship early and often if your true intent is to do the right thing, but you're in a gray area, right? So again, that's one thing to be mindful of if you're a holder of cryptocurrency. Other one is if you're a holder of cryptocurrency and you're not that interested, but your money's been seized, now all of a sudden you became a lot interested. Again, you should reach out to an experienced criminal defense lawyer or experienced lawyer who's dealt with crypto and knows how to deal with agents to help protect your interests. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you have more questions about this or something else related to law, leave a comment. We'll be sure to make a video.